Pecha Kucha 259, Orion and the Usual Suspects. And no, not the movie. I'm just, I spent my week doing the kind of stuff that I spend my average September week doing, the daily sketch. And not an awful lot else, to be honest. But Orion by Masamune Shirow was written in the early 90s. Shirow is something of a household name in Japan for things like Ghost in the Shell, Dominion Tank Police. And he was quite hot at the time that I came across this. And Orion is a self-contained story in a world that's a combination of Japanese semiotics based on religion, politics. There's a lot of science to this, and it's kind of got a little bit of a cyberpunk thing going on. The main character is a tomboy who is some kind of magic clan member who's targeted by the Emperor for assassination as he plots to release a beast that will take all the negative karma out of the universe. Susano, the god of destruction, is summoned and spends quite a lot of time trying to explain the mechanics of the magic and science of this world, while pausing to kill people who are interrupting him, because one of the main things about this book is it's very slapstick, it's very comedy orientated. And while I won't pretend to understand the higher thinking behind Masamune Shirow's pseudo-scientific world, the comedy means that anyone can read this and enjoy it. The main character by the end of the book is thinking about how to use this monster that is destroying negative karma to conquer the universe, while the people who were trying to kill her have become her subordinates. There's a very bizarre shift of alliances through this book, dogged always by the comedy. It's a very interesting read, and there's a lot of things in here I would want to incorporate into what I want to do, and a lot of things I'd want to stay the fuck away from. I'd recommend it, but I'd go check out Masamune Shirow's other more famous works first, things like Ghost in the Shell. So most of these daily sketches I've done this month, there've been lessons in just sitting down, putting the work in because I said I would, but not worrying about the results. I'm not especially happy with how any of these have turned out, but it's nothing to worry about. Art is typically unfinished. Someone somewhere made that as a quote. Could have been Picasso. Art is never finished, it's always abandoned. I think that's how it's actually said. I do feel like as time's gone on, I've tried to make a little bit more of a concerted effort to go for likenesses, because there are a few celebrities in these. This is Tom Selleck from the 80s, and if you don't know who that is, I can't fucking help you. But when I see the thumbnails on my desktop, I realize, they're ballpark accurate, but where I lose points is in the specifics, because the details of a face are basically the proportional and relative relationships of everything in relation to everything else. The distance of the eye to the eye socket, the eye socket to the nose, the length of the nose to the mouth to the chin. This picture of Jeff Goldblum is it's practically illustration by itself. I can't really do it justice. Something I've been thinking about that I might do with Daily Sketch next month, when I'm trying to get more manga focused, is to actually use manga tools like the G Pen and not screen tones, but like to use grayscale like I would use screen tones, as I attempt to incorporate a more traditionalist Japanese approach to how I work. And I have been doing a little bit more just random manga faces. I was looking at that silly Street Fighter comic I have from a while back, just as an excuse to move my wrist and get something done. I feel like I'm doing a lot less freeform stuff, both because of the daily sketch and because a lot of my interest is focused in this project I'm going to start coming out of October. And on Tuesday I did do my Tuesday picture of M. Bison. I did a close-up last week, so I thought let's do an extreme close-up this week. I'll do something else next week, unless I don't. The point of these is simply to have something to show, right? It's important that I get out before I feel like I'm being bogged down in doing stuff. I also just randomly in my feed found Char's Counterattack, the Mobile Suit Gundam movie that turns Char Aznable, the most famous anime character in Japanese history, into Adolf Hitler. But it's a 2-hour movie and it's entertaining, but it doesn't really do anything for anyone. Still, I'm glad I've seen it. And I also saw a guy who made the 1989 Batmobile out of Pepsi cans. I always love to see people who are excellent at like craft, typically doing something with a pop culture relevance. That, you know, that's the clickbait that makes me click. I'm always looking for channels like... Well, no, I'm always happy to see channels like that. I don't go looking. I was also messing around with brush settings to see if I could create a brush that uses multiple points to create like multiple lines with one stroke. I got what I was looking for, but it wasn't quite right. It's something to tinker with. I also saw a game called 12 Minutes, which is basically Groundhog Day, but instead of the whole day, someone is forced to relive the same evening. And the events that take place are very interesting, but it ultimately devolves into farce when you find out the ultimate plot twists. It's a good game, but I'm glad I did. I just saw someone else go through the hassle. I also randomly in my algorithmic recommend list saw I guess this is the latest episode of Dark Side of the Ring, which focuses on the plane ride from hell, which is a event that happened in 2002 where a bunch of professional wrestlers on their way back from a tour in Europe created such a scandal on the way home that it might have been a very public black eye for the WWE at the time. No, they were the WWF, just about to become the WWE. And it got a lot of wrestlers fired. The issue I take with the documentary is I'm very aware that they're leaving stuff out. And it's a shame. I think they tell a very compelling story, but they clearly protect people who have more money than the people that they decide need to be the people who are the bad guys of this story. Not that I would defend any of the actions that took place on this plane ride, but like they mentioned, like, I don't know what, about 10 people, but you know, I just wikied who was on one of the shows, the London show, Insurrection, and it's like there's way more people who are on that show that are not mentioned even in passing in this documentary. And the last thing you ever want to do is watch a documentary and by the time you finish watching it you're like, yeah, so I know what they told me, but what didn't they tell me? Whatever. I want to watch more Dark Side of the Ring episodes because this is the only one I've seen that's left a bad taste in my mouth. But I would definitely call this the Sad Clown of the Week. And we'll leave it at that. So that's the end of Pecha Kucha 259, and I will see you next week.